We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unfiltered Report. My name is Ryan. Hope you're having an excellent weekend so far. We are going to speed run through a day number 9 at the World Cup recap. The match day 2 extravaganzas in Group C and D. We'll also briefly preview the College World Series final. And then we'll come in later on and we'll recap day 10 at the World Cup with groups E and F and game 1 of the College World Series final. And then, like I mentioned, stay tuned. And we're gonna have in very due order. We'll get into the NBA draft and that long edged episode that we've been talking about at great lengths in the last couple of weeks or so. And lots more, non-sporting related, and plenty of things to look forward to with the mini stars of the Unfiltered Report. So looking forward to it all. But with this Group D, the first match of Group D, the first day of day number 9 at the World Cup between the United States and Australia. Australia decided to make a couple of changes to their lineup. They made an intent off the bat of um, they were setting up very defensively. The two players that scored for them in their first match against Turkey, and in many cases some of their best threat going forward, they decided to have come off the bench, which was an indication that they were willing to sit back and play behind the ball and take, try to maybe steal a point here for the United States coming off that great opening match against Paraguay. No Christian Pulisic, but as we've mentioned on here before, despite maybe some of the coverage you might see somewhere else, like there's a lot of really other good players on that team as well, and credit to the United States, they go up on top in the 11th minute on an own goal, and they were pretty much in cruise control the entire match. Australia didn't really have any major chances throughout the entire match. Really posed no threat moving forward. Um, this one was one of those that was pretty much done and dusted as early as it could be. Alex Freeman added a second goal for the United States in the 43rd minute. The youngest player for the United States at this World Cup, the Villarreal defender. So great to see him get on the, getting the score sheet. Continue. It's another great step in the right direction for the United States men's national team. Pochettino continues to have these guys playing well and getting people to really believe that they can make a real run. And I would say that the truth is always probably somewhere in the middle. They've looked really good in these two matches so far against Paraguay and Australia, but they have to keep plugging away and they can't get complacent after two matches, and you got to keep stacking, and I'm sure they will. But it just continues and it goes to show you what a difference a manager, a coach can make in any sport. They would have never played like this under Berhalter, and that's no disrespect towards the guy. It's just I think it's just a fact, in my opinion. I guess maybe it could be opinion, it could be fact. We'll find maybe it's one or the other or both. Pochettino's been growing out a great set of hair too, by the way. I mean, really looking great out there on the touchline. Um, I know again that there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to be, really singing these guys' praises, and there's not really much, at least in this speed run. I'd love to get the thoughts of others in very short time here that can take it to another level. But just at the moment, as it stands, I think things couldn't have been going better for the United States in this group stages. They've already clinched the top spot in the group. They're moving on to the round of 32. And then we'll get to Turkey, Paraguay in a little bit. But I think, if you're the United States, you couldn't have asked for two better matches to start off your campaign. things are looking real good for them moving forward, and it's just a matter now of making sure you get Pulisic healthy, obviously, make sure the rest of the team stays fit, and then make sure that everything everything continues to be moving in the right direction, heading into the knockout stages around the 32, and we'll see who they end up playing in that matchup as the rest of the field uh, continues to materialize. Moving on to the first match of Group C between Morocco and Scotland. Scotland making their second match in the World Cup, second in Foxborough Gillette Stadium. There was been some funny stories that I've been reading about. Uh, yeah, I'm sure many people might have heard, but in case they hadn't, where the Scottish supporters were they drank so much beer in Boston that they ran out of beer in Boston. And they said one of the quotes I saw was that they drank 3 St. Patrick's Days worth of beer in one weekend, and they weren't prepared for it. So I guess this weekend they were trying to be more prepared for it. So we'll see if they drank them dry again. I saw this one guy that had this random Scottish guy. Someone was interviewing one of these Scottish guys, and he said, "Yeah, all they had was Bud Light remaining," which I thought that was funny. Um, it goes to show you. I mean, hey, you know what? The Scottish can drink with the best of them, and the beer over here in the United States, or at least the I mean, I might get in trouble here, no free ads or anything, but some of the beer like that they were probably drinking. I mean, they probably the beer they got over there in Scotland, they probably need like 5 or 6 beers each to even feel a little something, something. So that definitely is part of the reason why they probably drank the entirety of Boston dry. But you know what? Shout out to the Scottish supporters, and there was a great Moroccan contingent. Ismail Saibari, again, one of the young players in this tournament that's continuing to stand out in these first 2 matches. He opens the scoring in the second minute, and that was really the only chance for both sides. Morocco really only created one or two other pretty good chances throughout the match. Scotland really only had one major chance the entire match, and they didn't even have a attempt on target throughout the match. Granted, they did have one decent chance, maybe that, but really this was one of those where Morocco opens up the scoring 2 minutes in, and Morocco squeezed the life out of Scotland, and I don't think Morocco's going to really care for style points or how it looks. They get their 3 points, and they're pretty much all but assured to move on to the round of 32. It's just a matter of whether they're going to be first or second, and that'll really come down to goal differential on match day 3 with Morocco playing Haiti, and then Scotland playing Brazil. We mentioned with Scotland, the big thing with them is going to be, with 8 of these 12 third place sides moving forward, was 3 points going to be enough? Yes or no? Um, we're going to see how they do against Brazil. We'll get into Brazil and Haiti in just a second. But I think if you're Morocco, was it the sexiest performance in the world? Not necessarily. We always come on here and say that sports was never meant to be entertainment. If a match happens to be entertaining, that's great, especially to the neutral eye. This was one of those where maybe to the neutral eye, it might not have been the most entertaining, but I thought it was a great match to watch. Um, but maybe that's because I just I think you can find beauty in any match. But credit to Morocco, they're going to be a tough out in this tournament. I think whether they're able to make as far of a run as they did in the previous World Cup or not, notwithstanding, I think they've proven that they're an incredibly young, talented side. I know, shout out Malik and the talent diaspora, but credit to them. They got a really, really good side with a lot of young talent that is really fun to watch. Um, and like I said, they really squeezed Scotland out of this match and really just took the life out of them. And you got to give credit where it's due. And Morocco's, like I said, they're moving on regardless. It's just going to come down to for Morocco, which position do you end up qualifying for out of the group, and who do you play in the knockout stages? What does that side of the bracket for them look like? But All in all, those are the preliminary thoughts there on the Group C match day two opener. The other match between Brazil and Haiti, there was a lot of talk maybe before the match. How was Brazil going to look? Did they were they in need of a convincing victory to kind of set the stage for the rest of their World Cup campaign? This is a Haiti side that played admirably against Scotland, but were not able to get any sort of a result. And for Haiti, they were going to need to get something out of this match in order to keep their tournament hopes alive. Unfortunately for them, they were not able to do so. Cunha has always been a fun player to watch, in my opinion, whether it was at Wolves or now at United. It's always been a fun, joyous player to watch, and it was really great to see him get not only one but two, and Vinny with another goal, and obviously on top of not only the goal, Vinny was great throughout the match. Uh, I mean, whether we're setting up goals himself, he set up the second goal for Cunha, so a goal and assist for him on the day. Cunha with two goals. Really the rest of the Brazilian team, they played pretty well in general. Paquetá played pretty well. The Brazilian back line didn't really allow too much from Haiti throughout the match. Um, all in all, I don't think Haiti really had any major chances throughout the match, and so Brazil did what they needed to do. They got their 3 points. They're same as Morocco. They're going to be moving on. It's just going to come down to whether it's first or second, and with the whole goal differential situation for Haiti. Look, disappointing, I'm sure, but we mentioned many times it's an accomplishment for them to even be there. And while their World Cup is assuredly done after they play Morocco, it is not done until they play Morocco. So I would fully expect them to throw caution to the wind in that match and try to get a result there with nothing to lose and trying to make their nation proud. So I'll be looking forward to seeing Haiti play, and they had a pretty good sizable support in that match against Brazil as well. But all in all, Brazil did what they had to do. Carlo Ancelotti and the gang, they took care of business. 3 goals in the first half, and then they just wrote that train down. We're gonna see throughout the rest of this tournament how Brazil looks, but I think this was business as usual for them in this. And I think they'll have much tougher tests moving forward, where we'll really be able to gauge where they're at, and see if this is a Brazilian side that can live up to the expectations of the shirt, despite the fact that maybe sometimes there might be over expectations as a result of that. I think they're going to be a tough out regardless. Excited to see where they land in the knockout stages. And continue to talk about them further in depth in future recordings, especially with the stars of the Unfiltered Report. So just setting the stage for that with others who, like I said, can take it to a far deeper level. Um, we got to warm the people up a little bit. You know what I mean? And then something I really can't wait to talk about with the stars of the Unfiltered Report is this Turkey Paraguay match. For Turkey, I mean, I think it goes without saying at this point. I would say they're the most disappointing side in the entire tournament. For them to go 2 matches, 2 defeats to Australia and now Paraguay, to not create a single goal. Miguel Almiron, the first player at the World Cup to get a full red card for covering his mouth when talking to a referee, which is something that was a rule that was implemented with the Vinny Jr. situation that happened with that dude from Benfica, Prestiani, where he covered his mouth and said some racist things to Vinicius. So as a result of that, they've made it to where you're not allowed to cover your mouth really under any circumstance. Um, Regardless, I'm sure of what they're saying. I'm sure I don't know what he said specifically, but just because of that, he got a full red for that. And I was in the third minute of stoppage time in the first half. Paraguay scored in the second minute of the match. 2 matches in one day where there's a goal in the first 2 minutes between Morocco and Paraguay. That's remarkable in itself. But Another match really that went exactly like the previous match for Turkey against Australia. Against statistics don't always play the whole side of the story, but how about this? 78% possession, 32 shots, five on target, but none of those shots on target really proved any bit of a threat. Um, I don't think they were any sort of threat. They were probably even worse going forward against Paraguay than they were against Australia. And especially the fact that they played the entirety of the second half with Paraguay down to 10 men. Really one of the bigger disappointments at the World Cup. I think, it goes to show you maybe that, maybe put a little too much stock into maybe the talent pool enough, but maybe not forgetting that, this is a side that had to qualify through the playoff in order to get it to the World Cup. But either way, regardless of how they got there, I'll be the first to admit I expected a lot more out of them. I thought they had a real shot to not only make it out the group, but top the group. But as much credit as we want to give to the U.S. Um, for two matches, 6 points, top of the group. On the flip side of that, if you're Turkey, you couldn't be more disappointed. And for Paraguay, for them to bounce back after that opener against the U.S. and how poorly they played, especially in the first half of that match, for them to be able to bounce back and for an entire second half down to 10 men and hold on to the 3 points, and give them a chance heading into match day three to make something happen and find a way into the round of 32 is no feat that should be undersold. It's a remarkable achievement for Paraguay to be able to bounce back like that. Um, and it sets up a very interesting match day three between Paraguay and Australia in Santa Clara, where you have to be thinking if you're either side. I think the big question for that match is going to be with both sides typically looking to play in their shell and play compact and not really hold on to the ball. Are they going to go for it against each other? Will both sides be thinking that a point and putting them at 4 points can take them to the knockout stages? Or will they say, you know what, we want to bury the opponent, we want to get our 6 points and leave no doubt? I wouldn't be surprised if Paraguay and Australia plays out to the tune of a draw, and maybe it's a little bit more cagey, and either team really risks losing the point. But at the same time, I could equally see them going forward as well. I guess time will tell. But that's really one of the matches I really can't wait to watch. Thursday, June 25th at 7 p.m. Pacific at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara between Paraguay and Australia. Um, you really you got to give credit where it's due to Paraguay, and then again, if you're Turkey, incredible disappointment. Will be interesting to see. Um, really really interested to see what happens with them and how they play with nothing to play for, having already been eliminated remarkably through two match days. So the technically will have nothing to play for in terms of the knockout stages. But anytime you're playing a World Cup match, regardless, like we mentioned with Haiti, you got to play with pride. And I'm sure they're going to try to get a little bit of the bitter taste out of their mouth and try to get a result against the United States. But incredibly disappointing if you're Turkey. One of the, I would say, the disappointment so far. Obviously, the tournament's still young, so that there could be more added to that list, and there could be a bigger disappointment in due time. But as of now, 9 days into the World Cup, that's really really shocking to me. Which goes to show you that's why they play the matches. But again, we talked about it before that Australia and Paraguay were not going to be pushovers, and they proved that to be true. And now one or both of those two are going to have a chance to move on. So can't wait to see how that group unfolds. Can't wait to come back and talk about groups E and F in just a little bit. To have the many stars of the Unfiltered Report come on here throughout the rest of the World Cup and be able to do that. So uh, I will be happy to continue to talk about these ones. One last thing before we get out of here, a quick preview of the college baseball final and the World Series between Oklahoma and North Carolina. We had mentioned that there was going to be On Wednesday, it was going to be North Carolina and West Virginia, and Oklahoma and Georgia in a rematch. And that if West Virginia or Georgia were going to win, they'd set up a winner take all to get to that championship. But if North Carolina or Oklahoma won, they would stay undefeated and move on to the championship side of the bracket. I'll move on to the championship best of threes. And North Carolina and Oklahoma both took care of business. North Carolina really jumped on West Virginia right off the bat in the first inning, and they never really looked back. That pitching continues to be the story for them, and just a really interesting lineup to watch go about their business as well. They might not have a bunch of mashers in their lineup or anything necessarily, but they got a bunch of really good hitters that know what they're doing at the plate and they have a plan. And credit to West Virginia for making it all the way this far, but credit to North Carolina and Steve Forbes remaining undefeated in Omaha, continuing their great run in the postseason and 2 wins away from a championship. And then we mentioned a movable force and unstoppable force, a movable object between Oklahoma and Georgia. Oklahoma continues to showcase that sometimes it's not about who's the best team, it's who's the hottest, and there's no hotter team in America than Oklahoma right now. They took it to Georgia. We've mentioned in the past that the best teams don't always win, and that ballpark in Omaha is a hard ballpark to hit the ball out of the yard as much as maybe a team like Georgia would like. Uh, when it comes to Georgia, as in any postseason, especially in baseball with a small sample size, they've been one of the two or three best lineups, if not the best in the entire country all year. We've talked about that before. But in Omaha, they didn't get going to the level that they had throughout the regular season and the early parts of the postseason. That's just kind of how it goes. Takes nothing away from what they were able to accomplish throughout the rest of the season, and I can't wait to see what Wes Johnson and company do moving forward. They'll continue to build on that. But again, Oklahoma, hottest team in the country, and then setting it up with Oklahoma and North Carolina, the perfect way. I'll preview this, and we'll come back and talk about it further. Um, but I believe that I'm a big believer in not only again the hottest team and momentum, but also and a fool me once, fool me twice, you can't fool me a third time. I'm not betting against Oklahoma. I'm taking Oklahoma to win the College World Series and continue to extend the SEC's dominance in college baseball. I'm not here to spread SEC propaganda. I'll be the first to admit that. I think in football and basketball, it gets a little over the top, of course. But when it comes to baseball, they continually do it and they churn out champions. Skip Johnson's got these guys playing their best baseball, and as cool of a story as it would be to see North Carolina win their first ever College World Series. We mentioned Arkansas as a program that's had a tortured history and never won one. North Carolina in 2006, ironically, against the same opponent as Arkansas lost to. Had another tour. If you want to go back in the vault and watch that was one of the more heartbreaking defeats for a team in Omaha, and one of the best programs in the history of the sport to not win a championship. And it would be cool to see the Tar Heels get there first, and to see Mr. Forbes, Steve Forbes, be able to lead them to that. But I'm not betting against Oklahoma. I'm taking Oklahoma. I'm riding with them to win the national championship. They're the hottest team in the country right now, and it's not even close. I know North Carolina's really hot too, but you just look at the teams that Georgia's beaten on their way. They beat Georgia Tech and Georgia and Kansas, and you go down the line. I mean, I got nothing but good things to say about what Oklahoma's doing right now. Look, were they the best team throughout the regular season? No. But they're the hottest team right now, and I'm not betting against that. We'll come back and we'll recap the first game, uh, and we'll see if that reigns true or not by the end of the series. Objectively speaking, I'll be rooting for a very competitive 3-game series, but I'm not betting against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to be your College World Series champion with an unfiltered report stamp of approval. But this has been a speed run version of World Cup Day number 9 recap and a little bit of a preview for the College Baseball Championship. But we'll continue to do further deep dives and do do some of these more in-depth conversations in due time. So don't get too used to these little quick recaps. We're gonna really I'm looking forward to the next hour and a half, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour extravaganza coming very soon. So stay tuned for that as well. But for the time being, my name is Ryan. I hope everyone's staying safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and stay with us throughout the weekend here at the Unfiltered Report. And cheers to the best to come. Much love.